I'm Jaquie Chandler, and I will be guiding you as you time travel using crafting. Today's project, a pine needle basket. That's right, we're going to be weaving from the ecosystem of the land. So get your pine needles, a pair of scissors, tapestry needle, some sinew, and get comfortable, and let's have some fun. So when we're ready to do the basket, get your needle, thread it with the sinew about shoulder to the end of your arm. It's going to be single, but I pull some through because I don't want it to come out. And then you want to grab some pine needles. Now, the easiest ones to use are the super green ones, but they will shrink after time. So the better ones are the dry ones, rehydrated. So I've got some of these that I've picked up and I've rehydrated them. And depending on how thick you want your basket, like with this basket I started with 2. With this basket, you can see the thickness. I started with 4 needles. And this one I started with 3. So I think I'm going to start with 3 because the thicker it is, the harder it is when you're first starting out. You want to make sure the needles will turn, they're nice and flexible. And then you go to the end. You get the 3 pine needles together. You put the sinew like this. And then on the very tip, you just wrap a couple times, maybe 3 times. So you've locked it in, you've got a little sinew there, and then you're going to bend it over and take this, go over like I showed you with that figure 8, pull it down and pull that in. So you've started your stitch, you've started a row. It's just a little tricky in the beginning. Back, behind, over, pull it in. Back, behind, over, pull it in. So now you can see how it started. We've got 3 stitches. Now for the next one, it's the same thing, but we have to turn it again. This is why it's a little bit tricky. And get the needle behind that first row. So there it is. Let me see if I can show it to you. See, I've turned the corner, just bent it around, got through the first row. Behind, over, back. See, it locks it down. And then bring your needle through. There it is. That's the start. A little crude, but it's there, and as tight as you can, of course. Behind, over, back, and through that row right there with the needle. That's what the needle does. It helps guide it through. So now we pull tight, and that's why it's hard in the beginning, because it's such a tight turn. You're making like U-turns. It gets much easier as you get going. So I'm just holding it between my first finger and my thumb to keep it flat. I go behind, over, there it is. And as you get better with this, you can make it neater, and there's lots of different stitches you can use, but this is just your basic, just to get you going, just so you can be weaving from the ecosystem of the land of pine needles. Hopefully you have some. And you know, if you don't have pine needles, you can use rope or anything that's flexible, twigs if they're flexible. There it is. Keep turning it. And you can pull the caps of the pine needles off, but I kind of like them on. So there you have it. See how it's starting to bend around, and you're building the basket. So I'm turning the basket up, and I'm adding needles as I go. And so I'm controlling the row by holding it in a different position. Instead of down, I'm holding it up, and that's what turns the basket. And then I come through. Same stitch, behind, over, pulling it down on top of the row this time, and then it goes through. Behind, over, back, and come through. Behind, over, back, and through. And you'll feel when it starts to get thin, and then you just keep adding in needles. You can stick them right inside the last stitch, and you just keep going, and I keep turning, pushing the row to be in the shape I want it as I'm shaping my basket. Just like that. Behind, through. See how it's starting to give it a shape. I'm going to add another needle. Behind, over, back, and through. So here we've advanced this basket, and I'm starting to turn it. I've been turning it, and I want to add on some thread here. So to add on, I have my new thread. I bring it all the way through, minus about 1 inch. Wrap it around, lay the other thread on top, and keep going. You just lay it onto the needles and include it in that row, and just keep going. So you're going to go through, and pull. So we're going to be ending the basket, and how you do that is you don't add any needles. So you can see it's going to start to thin out. Your row is going to get thinner. You keep with the same stitch, but you don't add on. And pretty soon there'll be nothing left to have in a row. So you just gracefully, whoops. Okay, so those needles were a little brittle. But you can see here's the shape. You can sort of mold it again with your thumbs, so you can see your baskets right here. And to end, I've let it run out, and now I'm just gonna do some stitches to finalize that edge so it's not sharp. Just do a few back stitches. You could do one more round. You could go around the whole basket. This is also the time if you wanted to bring in a bead or feathers or anything, this is where you could add them on, trim your basket with something at the top. So I'm just going to do a few lines like that. At the very end, I've got this, just got a few little broken edges here I'm repairing. Just cover them up. There it is, and then weave just in and out a couple times through the row, and wherever it ends, take your scissors and cut. Or you could tie on a feather or something at the end, and there it is, your coil pine needle basket. Congratulations on trying something new, and I hope you treasure the project that you completed, and join us again for another time travel through crafting adventure. Thank you for being here today.